what you had heard about Brock, and I guess you were right. He's back and he's healthy.
Yeah, I kind of, again, I had a little inside information because I talked to Brock before Christmas and kind of got the lowdown, and he was back on the path to getting back on the mat. He was looking to get cleared here in January and start training again, and then I wasn't surprised to hear that he held a press conference and alluded to that effect that he'd be back here early in the summer. So that's good news.
Crazy. I don't know if you got any feedback on the teleconference. It was classic Brock. I mean, Brock Lesnar is amazing because he's an amazing athlete, amazing fighter, but he's just a polarizing figure, and he just goes off on healthcare and Canadian. I mean, I don't know. It is good for the sport. I will say that, and the guy's entitled to his opinion.
Well, I heard a little about it. I didn't hear the conference itself, but I did hear some of the fallout from the rant that it sounds like he went on, and. I can't decide if it's just that he has kind of a short fuse, and when you get under his skin about something, he's just going to go off, or if it's some of it is just a persona that he's created, and I can't really decide which it is. I've sat in a room with him on several occasions and talked to him on the phone, and I mean, he's a very, very nice guy, but obviously he's never really gone off on a rant on me, but I guess I've not gotten under his skin.
That's Randy Couture with Steve and Dave here. UFC 109 coming up next weekend. Randy's in the main event. Super Saturday against another legend in Mark Coleman. We'll get to the fight here in a second. I wanted to ask you about Chuck Liddell because Chuck started taping what essentially is going to lead to his comeback in the Octagon. He's one of the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter 11. Is Chuck different than you in terms of, obviously style-wise he is, but can he remake his career, after a streak where he's lost 4 or 5?
Well, I think Chuck could do anything he sets his mind to. I think there are some lifestyle issues that are more the issue with Chuck. It's not that he doesn't have the ability to fight anymore or any of those other things. So I think he's trying to clean up some of that extracurricular stuff and focus more on what he really wants to do. It's a nice thing about getting older is we tend to get smarter, and hopefully he's made the adjustment. He sees the opportunity here to really kind of rally and get back to keeping things simple and really training and going out and performing.
Did you ever find yourself kind of going, off the deep end, off the beaten path where you weren't training like you wanted to and, you weren't following your own principles?
Fortunately, I haven't found myself in that circumstance. Obviously, I've had some outside things, divorce and other things that have been a struggle and things, burdens to carry, but, outside of that, I've been pretty focused about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be.
I mean, we should explain to people that, when you have those distractions, I mean, it's one thing to play basketball or, if you're a football player, maybe you can hide in a lineup. There are no moments off, and if you don't put the time in training, if you're distracted and don't feel like training, I mean, you're basically on a dead man's path in the cage.
There is no place to hide in that octagon. That's one of the things I've always loved about this sport, the sport of wrestling, that individual nature. And it's just you and your opponent out there. So there isn't even a lot a coach can do for you at that point.
Can I tell you what amazes me about your opponent in this? And Mark is right around your age. Obviously, he was wrestling a little earlier because you had your time in the military. I talked to Mark last week over at Tap Out, and Mark readily admits, I mean, he's never really understood how to train or accepted how to train. It's beyond belief that a guy he was damn good in Japan and great in UFC in the early days, and he was going off a natural talent.
I think it's a tribute to, first of all, the athlete that Mark is, and second of all, the wrestling pedigree that he's drug into the octagon, into the fighting arena. It's taken him a long way down the road, and it's going to be a great fight.
So explain to me, and to the casual fans out there, you're a great Greco-Roman guy. He was a great freestyle guy. Obviously, you were a great freestyle guy too. But kind of compare and contrast. Like where does one guy have an advantage? Because it's too simple to just say, hey, they're both wrestlers. They're going to negate each other.
Well, I think as I've studied and kind of ferreted around in wrestling and found out what applies to the fight game and what doesn't, I've found that where both Mark and I did well was in college, and there's a lot of college wrestling because of the control and the holds and the things that we do in college wrestling. There's a lot of direct application to the fight game and the ground fight game especially. And then outside of that, I think Greco-Roman wrestling applies directly to the fight game because of the stand-up posture and the infighting, the dirty boxing, and the clinch game, which all come from Greco. So of the styles, those are the two styles that really apply. Although Mark was a very, very good freestyle wrestler, I think he'll be relying a lot more heavily on his collegiate wrestling background, which, he was a national champion for Ohio State. He was a very good collegiate wrestler. So that's a technique he's going to be digging around in his bag to find things that work.
What are your thoughts about going against, on the other side, the guy, sort of designing the plan for Coleman is, a guy who worked with you and was in the gym with you for years, and Sean Tompkins?
I wasn't surprised to see him turn up over there. Mark, that is. He'd worked a little bit with Sean here, getting ready for Bonner, and then when Sean, went on to try and form Team Tompkins and build that part for himself and turn for a tap out, I wasn't surprised. I kind of predicted that with some of the people close here. I said, now watch, Mark is going to turn up over there and train with Sean. There are no real secrets. Sean, certainly has been involved in several of my camps and been in my corner, but Sean's predominantly a striking coach. He's a great kickboxer, and he trains a lot of his fighters to punch and kick by the numbers, and they are very, very good. I mean, Sam Stout, Hordesky, you name it, those guys are fun to watch because of the ground and foundation that Mark has laid with them, or that Tompkins has laid with them. And so I'm sure that he's been refining the striking skills for Mark in hopes that he can come out and find a way to land a good shot. And, I've been doing the same thing. I've been kind of anticipating, watching tape and figuring out where Mark's been throwing from and what kind of combinations he tries to use and how he sets up his double leg and all those things, too. So it'll be interesting. And all those things just make the fight all the more interesting on fight night.
So no bitter feelings? You don't feel like you're being stabbed in the back at all?
Nothing like that? No. Sean left here on good terms. He wanted to go his own thing and build his own thing. Why wouldn't Mark Coleman want to go train with Tompkins? It makes perfect sense to me. Absolutely.
What's great about talking to Randy, too, is I hate to, we always reference the age, but even at, an advanced point in your career, you can tell you still love the game. And the reason is you're still learning.
Absolutely. I've been ferreting around here with Neil Mellinson and kind of looking through my wrestler's eyes again and getting back to, kind of moving away from the jiu-jitsu perspective and doing more grappling and catch wrestling. And I found several positions and several things that have changed my ground game a lot. And I think that could end up being pertinent in this fight. We'll see. But I've been having a lot of fun on the mats a few days a week, with Nick Sacchetti, an All-American wrestler from Michigan State who's also a very good fighter, doing a lot of wrestling, a lot of grappling, and kind of getting ready for that piece of the game in this fight with Coleman.
In closing, we always like to mention, you're one of the guys who was around at the very beginning, UFC 13. I almost said 113. We're almost there now. 1997 was your debut. Funny note, you got cards coming up in Australia, Abu Dhabi. Interesting note that I just read online. The UFC just signed a deal with something called Sohu or Sahu, SOHU.com, and apparently it's the leading sports portal where you can get pay-per-view in China. So again, I always like to, because I like having you put it in perspective. Again, in the middle of Georgia, in a Holiday Inn, and now add maybe the potential of hundreds, millions more people in China now watching you.
Yeah, how insane is that? They'll probably be watching us in Peking, for crying out loud. There's I think 20 cities in China that have 25 million people or more in them. It's mind-boggling the amount of the population that's over there, and so for them to be exposed, and I think martial arts in general, traditional martial arts certainly is so that's where a lot of it has come from, kung fu and on down the line. So for them to finally be getting a taste of mixed martial arts is absolutely huge, and it could change things a lot.
I don't even know why you're fighting anymore. I think I would just retire and try to open as many Extreme Coutures as possible around the world. Screw it, make all the money. Right?
Well, we'll see.
In time, right? Hey, Randy,
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We'll see you out there next week before the fight, and good luck.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
There you go, Randy Couture, Mark Coleman.